Darling of the confused minds, the enemy of reason, meet the man, the myth, and the moustache, Friedrich Wilhelm Nietzsche, the 19th century German philosopher who boldly proclaimed, God is dead. Nietzsche is hated by many people because of his association with the Nazis. Attempts have been made to rehabilitate him as an apolitical cultural warrior, but was he really? In his book The Seduction of Unreason, the intellectual romance with fascism from Nietzsche to postmodernism, Richard Wallin writes, according to Nietzsche's Olympian ethical calculus, the suffering of the masses is a necessary precondition for the engendering of a handful of higher men. Mankind in the mass sacrificed to the prosperity of a single stronger species of man, there would be an advance, declares Nietzsche in Genealogy of Morals. In The Will to Power, he expresses an analogous sentiment. A declaration of war on the masses by higher men is needed. Ironically, whereas an earlier generation of critics took Nietzsche's philosophy to task for its repugnant political message, the postmodern approach is fond of celebrating his apoliticism. But no special interpretive talent is needed to see that the remarks just quoted, far from being apolitical, are fraught with political directives and implications. The postmodernists exaggerate Nietzsche's status as an aesthete and systematically downplay the components of his work that are politically consequential. Nietzsche's unabashed embrace of hierarchy, violence, and virility of the warrior type, combined with his visceral distaste for the values of altruism and political egalitarianism, suggests that his doctrines foreshadowed nolens volens some of the more unsavory dimensions of 20th century matchpolitic come total war. Any serious attempt to reassess Nietzsche's philosophical legacy must ultimately confront the distasteful character of his moral and political views. He fully subscribed to his University of Basel colleague Jacob Burckhardt's opinion that the rise of democracy had precipitated Athens' downfall. One of the most felicitous descriptions of his political orientation was provided by his Danish admirer George Brandes, who spoke of Nietzsche's aristocratic radicalism, a characterization that Nietzsche fully approved of. Aristocracy means rule of the best. In Nietzsche's view, it was only natural that the best, the strongest, and the most powerful natures should rule and rule ruthlessly. Today, Nietzsche's philosophy is being sold as some kind of profound insight that can help you lead a better life and become a higher man, whatever that means. I even saw an Indian YouTuber selling self-help courses in his name. But can Nietzsche really help you get your act together? Let's dive deep into one of the most controversial minds of all times. I'm an Indian, so first I'd like to do what most Indians love to do. Finding an Indian connection with anything and everything.
Of course it's inspiring. Because it's Indian!
Nietzsche's philosophy has a deep Indian connection. Nietzsche का इंडिया से बहुत गहरा नाता है.
साथ तो हमारा रिश्ता है, हमारा नाता है.
Nietzsche loved the most beloved, not beloved, sorry. He loved the most hated, debated, and trashed Indian books of all times, the Manusmriti. Yeah, the same book that was burned by Dr. Ambedkar. Nietzsche was a huge fan of hierarchy and hated equality. And so he must have always been on the lookout for ideas that could justify his hatred for egalitarianism. And one day he found a translation of Manusmriti, the laws of the Manu. And he found something magical, the caste system. To drop such a law book as Manu's means to lay before a people the possibility of future mastery of attainable perfection. It permits them to aspire to the highest reaches of the art of life, To that end, the thing must be made unconscious. That is the aim of every holy lie. The order of castes, the highest, the dominating law, is merely the ratification of an order of nature, of a natural law of the first rank, over which no arbitrary fiat, no modern idea can exert any influence. Nietzsche was fascinated by the caste system. He writes in The Antichrist, in every healthy society, there are three physiological types gravitating toward differentiation but mutually conditioning one another, and each of these has its own hygiene, its own sphere of work, its own special mastery and feeling of perfection. It is not Manu but nature that sets off in one class those who are chiefly intellectual, in another those who are marked by muscular strength and temperament, and in a third those who are distinguished in neither one way or the other, but show only mediocrity. The last named represent the great majority, and the first two the select. The superior caste, I call it the fewest, has as the most perfect the privileges of the few. It stands for happiness, for beauty, for everything good upon earth. Only the most intellectual of men have any right to beauty, to the beautiful. Only in them can goodness escape being weakness. The order of caste, the order of rank, simply formulates the supreme law of life itself. The separation of the three types is necessary to the maintenance of society and to the evolution of higher types and the highest types. The inequality of rights is essential to the existence of any rights at all. A right is a privilege. Oh, so that's where he got his idea of dividing people into two classes, the master and the slaves. According to Nietzsche, masters have master morality, which arises from the strong and the noble, valuing power, pride, and independence, while slave morality emerges in the oppressed and the weak from resentment and valuing qualities like pity, sympathy, empathy, and kindness to subvert their masters. This sounds like some kind of class struggle, but where the poor and the oppressed are being vilified for rising up in revolt against their oppressors. I mean, what the heck was Nietzsche even thinking when he was writing all this crap?
लवणेन भोज्यम.
So, who exactly is Nietzsche's Übermensch or Overman or the Superman? Zarathustra proposes the values of a new lawgiver, the Superman, who refuses to shun violence and cruelty when they are called for. He who has to be a creator in good and evil truly has first to be a destroyer and break the laws, break values. Thus, the greatest evil belongs with the greatest good, for evil is man's best strength. Man must grow better and more evil. Thus do I teach. The most evil is necessary for the Superman's best. Nietzsche hated socialism and socialists. He showered them with expletives like chandalas. Yes, that same outcast group in the Indian caste system, lowest in the caste hierarchy, who worked in crematoriums and handled corpses, and that's why were considered impure and untouchable. He abhorred equality and hated socialists because obviously these were the people fighting tooth and nail against the feudal structure of the society so that everybody could get equal opportunities to prosper. He writes in The Antichrist, whom do I hate most heartily among the rebels of today? The rebel of socialists, the apostles to the Chandala, who undermine the working man's instincts, his pleasure, his feeling of contentment with his petty existence, who make him envious and teach him revenge. Wrong never lies in unequal rights. It lies in the assertion of equal rights. What is bad? But I have already answered all that proceeds from weakness, from envy, from revenge. The anarchist and the Christian have the same ancestry. He believed that workers and people from the lower strata of society were content with their petty existence. It was the socialists who were instigating them to exact revenge from the elites. Because it was the socialists who were talking about the class struggle and calling upon the workers of the world to unite and stand up for their rights. When people hear that Nietzsche criticized Christianity, they imagine him as someone who was against religion, but in reality, he was no anti religion rebel. He did criticize Christianity, but for all the good things it taught, like love, compassion, sympathy. Christianity is called the religion of pity. Pity stands in opposition to all the tonic passions that augment the energy of the feeling of aliveness. It is a depressant. A man loses power when he pities. What is good? Whatever augments the feeling of power, the will to power, power itself is in man. What is evil? Whatever springs from weakness. What is happiness? The feeling that power increases, that resistance is overcome. Not contentment, but more power. Not peace at any price, but war. Not virtue, but efficiency. Virtue in the Renaissance sense, virtue free of moral acid. The weak and the botched shall perish. First principle of our charity, and one should help them to it. What is more harmful than any vice? Practical sympathy for the botched and the weak. Many Indians mistake him for being anti religion and thus a progressive thinker, when in reality, Nietzsche loathed progress and disliked science and reason. And when he said, God is dead, we have killed him, he was not proclaiming the end of religion or that now human beings could live without religion. In fact, he was lamenting the loosening grip of religion in the lives of people under the influence of science, reason, and secularism. 19th century Germany saw the emergence of counter-enlightenment ideas in the writings of philosophers like Schopenhauer, Kierkegaard, and Nietzsche, which is often defined as irrationalism. Irrationalism is a philosophical stance which emphasizes non-rational forces like instinct, feeling, will, or intuition as superior to reason in understanding human condition and the universe. Nietzsche had waged a war against Enlightenment ideas. He lived at a time when the old feudal order was crumbling under the pressure of liberal democracy and modernity. The nobles, the aristocrats, and the elites feared losing their perks and privileges. The irrationalist movement was later transformed into postmodernism after the Second World War. So, what is it that attracts young Indians towards Nietzsche's writings and philosophy? Well, most of the youngsters who admire Nietzsche are the educated lot who have lost faith in religion and have realized that spirituality is also a lighter form of religion, only with a better business model. And these youngsters are going through teenage angst and are constantly under pressure from their families to prove themselves, to succeed, to conform to societal norms. Every day they have to, face judgmental attitudes of families, friends, their neighbors, and society. And in such a circumstance, in such a situation, these people are constantly looking for some anchor of peace, someone or something that would bring certainty and stability in their otherwise uncertain, cruel world. And so these youngsters naturally get attracted to the Christianity bashing, morality smashing Nietzsche, quotes like God is dead, we have killed him. The concepts of Ubermensch seem attractive to young people because it fuels their adrenaline and makes them believe that by following Nietzsche, they could become some sort of Superman or some higher man, even though they might not know what becoming this higher man means. Nietzsche disliked all the qualities that make us humane. He exhorted the Superman, his Ubermensch, to purge himself of the qualities like pity, love, sympathy. These are the qualities that he associated with slave morality. No matter how much high you get on the idea of becoming an Ubermensch of achieving individual greatness, of rising above the slave morality. You should always keep in mind that individuals can achieve greatness only when everybody in the society has equal rights and equal opportunities to succeed. A poor person or someone from lower middle class family doesn't have many avenues to fulfill their dreams and inculcate a distinct individuality. Nietzsche blamed socialists for killing individual genius and leveling differences. But think about it. If rights, privileges, and access to resources are preserved for a fistful of elites, will common people like you and me be able to achieve anything in life? Would we be able to achieve or reach our potential? Take the example of social media. Earlier, the media scene was dominated by few privileged and well-connected people. Only a select few had the means to voice their concern and tell their stories. But YouTube, Instagram, TikTok have democratized the content creation scene so much that anyone with a decent mobile phone can start telling their stories and make a difference in the world. These platforms have transformed the lives of many people. It has brought name, fame, and money to them. So how to deal with the cruelties of life? Well, try to be a good human being and not a higher man. Try to build meaningful relationships with people around you. Care for the people. Have kindness, compassion, and concern for the underprivileged, the poor, and the marginalized. Be the voice of the voiceless. That's the only way to make the world a better place for us and for our future generations, where every individual gets an opportunity to develop their distinct individuality. And please, next time when you read or listen to a philosopher or spiritualist, be careful. Don't take their vagueness for greatness.